recycling center has fees too. So what's new with you?
Well, hey, 13 of my 20 yard signs replaced. You know what? I had a drill, only a couple of them. It's frozen only about an inch down. And then they go in. And I haven't seen any.
Well, that's good. I have to.
Supervisors, if you could please mark yourselves present and then we can get started. All right, I'll call the February meeting of the Manitowoc County Board to order. We will start with invocation by Supervisor Mink, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Due to my height, I have to lower this a little bit, guys. So normally, I actually get something off the internet. This is really kicking my butt. But I wrote this one. So I've been on the board coming on for about 8 years. And I've learned a lot from this person who is retiring. So I just want to give a little prayer for this one. May the Lord grant me and us the strength to be more like my friend Norb. Over the last several years, Norb and I have developed a bit of a back and forth due to us both being veterans. I would often ask him, what was it like fighting the Krauts back in the trenches of World War I as a doughboy? But even with our barbs and jokes, I never once heard him speak ill of another board member or lower himself to take a jab at someone he disagreed with. He would let his vote speak for itself. With that, he has represented his district with honor and respect and represented what it truly means to have Christ in your heart. In truth, in the past, I have failed to meet this standard. Hence, may the Lord grant me and us the strength, wisdom, and grace to do so. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call is going around. We have 23 members present. Supervisor Shimlunas may be arriving late. Supervisor Zimmer is excused. First item for action is consideration of our last meeting's minutes. Do I see a motion? Motion by Supervisor Benke, second by Supervisor Engelbrecht. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes are approved. We have no additions to the agenda, no reports. That'll take us into public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak tonight? If you could just please state your name for the record.
Patricia Klein.
Use the microphone, please.
Yes, sir. Patricia Klein. As a Christian woman, I strive to serve God, who is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, as are his standards for judging right and wrong. Emotional situations do not sway his perfect, righteous logic. Approximately a year and a half ago, I went on a tour of the Manitowoc County Courthouse to learn firsthand why the courthouse needed such expensive repairs. At the time, I asked Jerry Noiser how many windows need to be replaced. As I recall, he replied, approximately 27. Last month, Supervisor Klein asked Mr. Noiser at the county board meeting how many windows were actually compromised. Mr. Noiser could not recall the number. At that point, Supervisor Klein asked Mr. Noiser to please get back to him with the number. Mr. Noiser indicated he would do so. After a couple of weeks of no response, Supervisor Klein emailed Mr. Noiser once again and requested a number. In short, Mr. Noiser sent an email communicating his inability to give a specific number. Instead, Mr. Neuser communicated to Supervisor Klein that the count of compromised windows didn't matter, as the windows are 50 years old, need to be replaced, and the county board already voted to replace all 120 windows. I've addressed the county board twice in the past 2 months, armed with statistics from highly respected experts. Their facts expose the financial perils ahead of us in the United States as well as governments abroad. I have the impression, due to the outcome of the vote, that my warnings, authored by experts, successful economists, and capital market specialists, were not believed. I can't help but wonder why, especially since you all were elected as shepherds to protect the best interests of your constituent sheep. Hopefully we all agree that to fulfill this calling, educating oneself beyond agenda-driven mainstream media is essential. For this reason, I'd like to ask some rhetorical questions. Have you read the findings of E.J. Antoni, Ph.D., Jason Trinard, Scott Bessent, Dr. David Bratt, Dr. Peter Navarro, and Philip Patrick on the current economic climate? Are you familiar with the New Industrial Revolution agenda and infrastructure? Are you tracking with AI's sinister agenda exposed by Joe Allen's intense and diligently researched investigative work compiled in his book, Dark Eon? What was the logic that drove the vote to spend $20,000 a window times 120 in this financially precarious environment here and abroad, especially when the large majority of window costs is cosmetic? Did your vote take into consideration the practical difference between a need and an emotional want? Was your vote due to the misguided belief that this is in the best interest of your already struggling constituents? Did unconscious peer pressure influence the vote? Were personal legacies a factor in the vote? Have you been to Walmart lately? It is like visiting a United Nations assembly due to the influx of over 10 million unvetted illegal aliens crossing our borders since taxpayer money is covering the expense of their transportation into our communities, housing, food, clothing, schooling, fentanyl addiction, incarceration, and healthcare. Is it logical to assume taxes will continue to rise? What's driving the budget increases in the human services? Is this just the tip of the iceberg due to job losses, undocumented immigrants, and the escalation of man-made calamities and wars requiring more tax increases? Are you aware of the million-plus soldiers illegally crossing our borders from countries intent on our destruction? Thank you. Do you know they are being bused and flown to destinations throughout the United States by our own government? I and many others in this community implore you to earnestly and vigorously consider logical, factual, need-based realities versus emotional ones when considering bids for window replacement. This would require two estimates, one for replacing the windows presently in place and the second for replacing the windows on your wish list. I strongly suspect the difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars will quickly expose the right choice if viewed through the lens of your role as guardians of your constituent sheep's best interest. If it isn't logical, it is emotional, which too often leads to regret. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak? Any other members of the public wishing to speak? For a third and final time? Seeing none, we'll close public input. That brings us to our first appointment as county executive. It's to the Joint Dispatch Board, and looking for a motion to approve the appointment. Motion by Supervisor Banky, second by Supervisor Baumann. Any discussion on the appointment? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the appointment is approved. That will take us into committee reports. First up is Planning and Park Commission, Supervisor Kowalski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Planning and Park Commission met on January 22nd. The docket that day included 5 rezone requests, 3 variance requests, and a site plan review and a park permit request. After confirming open meeting law compliance, we opened the floor for public comment. First, from our hearing and for our consideration is the Jaeger Repair Inc. from the town of Cooperstown from small estate to rural residential. The staff commentary was entered into the record along with a letter from the town of Cooperstown for support. Mr. Yeager testified, and afterwards the motion to approve the rezone request passed unanimously. On behalf of the commission, I so move to approve ordinance 2023-2024-59, amending the zoning map for Yeager repair.
All right, there's a motion and a second by Supervisor Heller. Any discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Next for our deliberation is the rezone from Christina Schrock from the town of Maple Grove from exclusive ag to general ag. Staff commentary was entered into the record as well as a letter from the town of Maple Grove supporting the change. Mr. Schrock testified, and after discussion, a motion to approve the rezone request passed unanimously. Therefore, I move to approve ordinance 2023-2024-60, amending the zoning map for Samuel and Christina Schrock.
There is a motion. Looking for a second. Supervisor Lillibridge. Any discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Samuel and Christina Schrock.
And the ordinance is approved.
The rezone for Peter Propson from the town of Schleswig from natural area to general agriculture. Staff commentary was entered into the record and also a letter from the town of Schleswig supporting the change. Mr. Propson also testified. After discussion, the motion to approve was unanimous. I now so move to approve ordinance 2023-2024-61, amending the zoning map for Peter Propson.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Supervisor Niles. Any discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending the zoning map for Peter Propson Jr.
And the ordinance is approved.
Next on our docket was a request from Joseph Pribble from the town of Gibson from large estate to rural residential to small estate. Staff commentary was entered into the record and also a letter from the town of Gibson in support. Mr. Pribble testified and answered the commissioner's questions. After discussion, the motion to approve the rezone request passed unanimously. Therefore, I so move to approve 2024-62, amending the zoning map for Joseph Pribble.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Marsh. Any discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Joseph Pribble.
And the ordinance is approved.
And lastly, the request from Carol Waniger from the town of Cato, large estate to rural residential. Staff commentary was entered into the record and a letter from the town of Cato supporting the change. Mr. Leonard, an adjacent property owner, testified at the hearing. After discussion, the motion to approve the rezone request passed unanimously. Therefore, on behalf of the commission, I so move to approve ordinance 2023-2024-63, amending the zoning map for Carl Waniger.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Phipps. Any discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Carol Waniger.
And the ordinance is approved.
At our hearing, we also approved the variance request for Propson, Weisner, and Feister on file. So approved the preservation at Lincoln Park plat review. Finally, we discussed the permit request for the Lakeshore Ladies Disc Golf Tournament at Cato Falls County Park. After staff overview, a testimony from Ms. Kraus, the event organizer, the approval was unanimous. Our next meeting date is tentatively scheduled for Monday, February 26th. Our advisory meeting starts at 3:30 and our hearing starts at 4. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski. Next, we have the Aging and Disability Board, Supervisor Wagner.
Thank you, Chairman Martel. Our next meeting will be March 26th, and it will be held at Kewaunee County. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Board of Health, Supervisor Niles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On February 8th, the Board of Health met and we discussed the Health Department's 5-year strategic plan was presented by the Health Department. Among other things, the WIC caseload for December was 922 participants, 566 families. The initial January caseload is 936 participants and 574 families. Contracted caseload is 936 participants. We did have an ordinance update or amendment also that we voted on and passed, raising the level of our health department from a level 2 to level 3. Supervisor Metzger, I don't know if you want to continue from here.
14, and I so move.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Supervisor Niles. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending Manitowoc County Code Section 7.14 Health Officer Qualifications.
And the ordinance is approved. Anything further, Supervisor Niles?
Yeah, just that our next Board of Health meeting will be March 14th at 5 p.m. in the Public Health Building. That is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. Supervisor Falkowski.
Just as an announcement, the next CJCC meeting is scheduled for March 6th. End of my report.
Thank you. Next is the Executive Committee. I just have one announcement. On Monday at 4:30. 4:30 is the time. We will be meeting in the Administrative Building to review and discuss the County Board rules. So if you have any ideas, want to review the rules, we're just doing this as just some regular housekeeping before we have a new county board and just reviewing those. So if you have any ideas, please come to that meeting to join us and give your suggestions. Then we have the Expo Ice Center Board, Supervisor Sikowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Manitowoc County Expo Ice Center Board met on Wednesday, February 7th and took the following actions. All of the board subcommittees met prior to the main board meeting for election of officers. The board approved the Wednesday opening night Special Olympics race that will start at 6 p.m. The board approved several entertainment contracts for this year's fair, including the contract for the petting zoo and pony rides, the opening night fireworks show, the Thursday afternoon horse pulls, the Friday night farm tractor pulls, and the Saturday night modified truck and tractor pulls. The board also approved having Miss Wisconsin attend this year's fair. The board approved the Saturday Women's Day event, and the 2024 Manitowoc County Fairs of the Fair. Michaela Bell attended the board meeting and gave a brief biography of herself. The 2023 Manitowoc County Fairs of the Fair, Emma Dvorak, participated at the Wisconsin Association of Fairs to Fairs competition in January and placed in the top 10. The Expo Ice Center Board currently has a vacancy, and we are seeking candidates to fill that vacancy. So if you know anyone who is interested, please have them call the Expo office to get the application link that is on the Expo website. The next Expo Ice Center Board meeting will be held on March 6th. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Sikowitz. Next, we have Finance Committee, Supervisor Bry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met last Monday evening, or I should say afternoon. Among the normal items we had of paying the vouchers and going through the minutes of other things, we had two things of importance I will bring out tonight. One will be the resolution we'll talk about in a second, but another one that was very interesting, as you know, that the Finance Committee oversees, in a sense, Jerry Noiser's DPW department regarding foreclosed properties. And we fortunately had a bid on a property I've been trying to, sell for the last several years. 315, 316 Riverview Drive, which is in the city of Manitowoc. If you're not aware of where that property is, it's kind of overlooks Manitowoc River on the near Freighter Holy Family Hospital. It's actually a famous place that former Packers Max McGee and Paul Hornung used to live there in the late 60s. So interesting, a little bit before my time. But my famous part, I used to deliver Milwaukee Journal Sentinels to that place. So that was interesting. But anyways, we just received the bid for $22,000 and the Finance Committee unanimously accepted that. So Jerry and Department of Public Works, thank you very much. Did a great job once again. Hopefully it's a nice property. I think hopefully somebody can do something with it. So we got there. Also, the next thing we got is the initial resolution authorizing not to exceed $4.2 million in general obligation promissory notes for the Highway Department projects. As mentioned by County Executive Ziegelbauer at the Finance Committee, we actually budgeted more for the projects, but the bids came in a lot less. I would say approximately $1 million left. Yeah, about $1 million less, so that's why we're only borrowing $4.2 million. So that's good. So with that, I will make a motion to adopt the resolution.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Supervisor Baumann. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct a vote, and we do need a 3/4 majority for this vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the initial resolution authorizing not to exceed $4,200,000 general obligation promissory notes for highway projects.
And the resolution is approved. Anything else, Supervisor?
That's all I have, and I guess if it's up to Supervisor Hanson as the real chair of the committee, our next scheduled meeting would be March 11th on Monday at 4:30 p.m. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Bry. Highway Committee, Supervisor Benke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on February 13th. A number of items we referred a denied driveway access to Corp Council for enforcement. We also approved the bids to Vinton Construction, as the lower bid was the only bid on the County R project, and talked about the bids that were going out for asphalt milling and pulverizing. Commissioner Grodiget went through some of that. We also talked about a program that the state is implementing or putting money out there to local municipalities for doing an inventory and inspection on bridges that are between 6 and 20 feet. Beyond that, those bridges end up for bridge aid and apply under that program. Just anything from 6 to 20 feet that doesn't fall into the bridge program. So the state is giving this program, or implementing this program so that the county will inventory the local municipalities' bridges. And at that point, then the second phase would be inspecting and doing the inspection on those bridges. So that's going to add some work to the department, but it's a good program for those local municipalities that really need to have those bridges or those structures that are within that parameter taken care of. We also talked about a new brine program, expanding our brine program and setting up a facility near our pond area over there for this structure, but that will be coming down the line. Our next meeting will be March 19th. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Benke. Next, we have the Human Services Board, Supervisor Bry.
I have no report at this time, but we do have a joint resolution with the Personnel Committee towards the end of the agenda, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Next, we have the Land Conservation and UW Extension Education and Agriculture Committee, Supervisor Wagner.
Thank you, Chairman Martell. We have an ordinance, number 66. Manitowoc County has adopted an animal waste storage ordinance. The Soil and Water Department administers the Manitowoc County Code Chapter 26 through permits and fees. Soil and Water Conservation Department staff has identified and suggested changes to the permit fee schedule. The staff recommended changing the fee structure for animal waste storage facilities from pay and base on the number of animal units served by a waste storage facility by pay and base on the size of this facility. The fee for the permit for animal waste storage facility with a capacity of less than 2.5 million gallons is going to be $500. The fee for permit for an animal waste storage facility with a capacity of at least 2.5 million gallons but less than 5 million gallons is $750. The fee for the permit for an animal waste storage facility with the capacity at least 5 million gallons but less than 7.5 million gallons is $1,150. The fee for the permit for an animal waste storage facility with capacity at least 7.5 million gallons but less than 10 million gallons is $1,500. And the fee for the permit for an animal waste storage facility of 10 million or more gallons is $2,500. I would like to make a motion to accept that.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Supervisor Phipps. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending Manitowoc County Code Section 26.05 fees.
And the ordinance is adopted.
Okay, we have number 67. The Manitowoc County Land and Water Resource Management Plan identifies concerns with non-point pollution of surface water, groundwater, and agricultural soil erosion in the county. Uncontrolled non-point source pollution and agricultural runoffs can be significant sources impacting Manitowoc County groundwater, lakes, and watersheds draining to the Lake Michigan ecosystem. Farmers and landowners involved in agriculture and operating in unity of a group in Manitowoc County have the ability to make positive impact and adopt practices for control runoff, promote soil health and sustainability, promote a positive land ethic, and mentor others. The Soil and Water Department has the opportunity to apply and receive $7,000 producer-led watershed protection grant in 2024 from the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection to help foster producer-led groups. 10 farmers and landowners in Manitowoc County has expressed a desire to create a producer-led group called Seven Rivers Soil Cooperative. After careful consideration and review of the Land Conservation Committee recommends that the Soil and Water Conservation Department pursue grants under DADCAP, WDNR, and other applicable government agencies and non-profit entities. Also move.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Supervisor Engelbrecht. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing producer-led watershed protection grant.
And the motion's approved.
Okay, the Land Conservation's next meeting will be March 21 at the County Office Complex at 4:45. So we have another resolution authorizing West Foundation grant. The Ruth St. John and John Dunham West Foundation awards grants to arts and humanitarian, cultural, and civic organizations centered on the Lakeshore area. The University of Wisconsin Division of Extension, Manitowoc County, fosters civic leadership, empowering citizens to become positive, transformative changes in their community. UW Extension, Manitowoc County desires to apply for a grant from the West Foundation to pay for a plan to provide sustainability to programs providing electronic benefits transfers, or EBT machines. They use them at the farmers market as well as to prepare marketing materials acquire services, educate market vendors, hire interns, and perform other work as outlined in the grant proposal. After careful consideration and review, the UW Extension, Education, and Agriculture Committee recommends UWX Manitowoc County pursue a grant from the Ruth St. John and John Dunham West Foundation Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $9,900. And the County Board of Supervisors be it resolved that the County Board of Supervisors of County Manitowoc authorized UW Manitowoc Extension Director to apply for and accept a grant from the West Foundation in an amount not to exceed $9,900 and to be used to create a plan to provide sustainability to programs providing electronic. I think I read that paragraph. Also move.
There's a motion to approve the resolution. Is there a second? Supervisor Jadowski. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing West Foundation grant.
Supervisor Bowden, could you enter your vote, please? Thank you, and the resolution is approved unanimously. Anything else, Supervisor Wagner?
The next meeting of the UW Extension, Education, and Agriculture Committee will be April 18th, 2024 at the County Office Complex. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Personnel Committee. Supervisor Marsh.
Thank you. We met before this meeting and discussed Sheriff's Department and Emergency Management recruitment. Also discussed and approved the hiring of psychiatric advanced practice nurse prescriber under our lateral transfer policy that we had passed in April of last year. And also we discussed and approved the fronting of vacation to the safety service specialists that have worked for the county for more than 1 year. And we will be bringing the resolution regarding the creation of those 4 FTEs at the end of the meeting. Thank you. And our next meeting is March 5th at 4:30.
Thank you. Next, we have Public Safety Supervisor Falkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Safety Committee met on February 14th. On our agenda that day was a reporting from the District Attorney Jacqueline LeBray. As a perspective of the office operation, the filing details from 2023 were 958 felonies, 558 misdemeanors, and 622 criminal traffic cases with 127 juvenile petitions. So far in 2024, it's an unusually busy activity that's going on in the District Attorney's Office. There are currently 126 felony filings to date, as well as 68 misdemeanors and 101 criminal traffic cases and 20 juvenile petitions. It's important to understand these numbers. Each of these filings are attached with a human resources time, and it goes through all the way through the cases, but also through post-conviction as well as appeals, all the way to fruition. Finally, the office ended the budget year successfully. Noted that the office was under budget by $32,000. District Attorney LeBray was congratulated for successfully resource management, especially in the area of unpredictability with law and order. The office operates without an investigator. Rather, it relies on a qualified law enforcement we have. In an absence of an investigator, this makes investigating other referrals, such as open meeting law violations, as an example, difficult to prosecute. If the office would be to shift to an investigator, this would also be funded by the county. While it would be beneficial, the priority at this moment is for a second victim witness coordinator. Other information that was presented at our meeting was Attorney Seth Reinhardt has joined the office, taking the role of traffic prosecutor. Also, the office space has been redefined Primarily because of shifting the paper to on-demand, this allowed the occupying space for files to be reclaimed. We thank District Attorney LeBray for the hard work and the personnel in our office. Our next meeting will be scheduled March 13th. We're scheduled to meet with the coroner, Kurt Green, and the year-end mortality data. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was the end of my report.
Thank you. Next, we have Public Works Committee, Supervisor Sikowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Works Committee met on Wednesday, February 14th. In the Solid Waste and Recycling Division, the committee was given an update on recycling markets and the volumes of recyclables delivered to the recycling center, and we set the 2024 rates for tire recycling and compost products. In the Buildings and Grounds Division, the committee was updated on the status of the 2024 capital projects. With the delay in county board action on the courthouse stone repair and renovation project, DPW staff is investigating temporary repairs to the copper portion of the dome's roof to keep the water out. It was made clear that this is not a permanent fix, as the copper roof is at the end of its life and the only permanent fix is replacement. The courthouse windows replacement and HVAC upgrade project has kicked off with 3D scanning of the interior and the exterior of the courthouse completed, and the architects and engineers working on design development. We expect this project to be out for bids by early summer. In the Communications Division, the committee was updated on the status of 2024 capital projects, the public safety radio system, and the next generation 911 system upgrade has been completed. In the Information Technology Division, the committee was updated on current projects and reviewed the monthly cybersecurity report. In the Expo Division, the committee reviewed the Expo activities calendar and a monthly financial report. The next Public Works Committee meeting will be held on Wednesday, March 13th. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we have the Transportation Coordinating Committee, Supervisor Hacker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Transportation Coordinating Committee met January 31st to review fourth quarter 2023 progress and results. Grant proposals for 2024 have been approved, and we've been awarded one of the 2 replacement buses we requested for 2024. That sounds great, but as a side note, we continue to wait for the bus awarded in 2023 because the bodybuilder, A&J Mobility in Valders, is waiting for a chassis. We've been awarded $53,500 of the $83,200 requested as the 2024 Mobility Management Grant. Per our contract, the City of Manitowoc will cover the balance. Ridership continues to rise, with overall one-way rides in 2023 up 9.8% over 2022. We continue to add volunteer drivers, with our staff now at 14. State law requires that our coordinated plan be revisited every 5 years. This must be completed and approved by December 2024, and the first planning meeting is scheduled for February 27th. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Hacker. Our last committee report, we have a miscellaneous item coming out of Personnel and the Human Services Board. Supervisor Marsh?
Thank you. This is a resolution that we had discussed earlier. Resolution 2023-2024-69, authorizing addition of 4.0 full-time equivalent human services employees, safety service specialists. I so move.
Motion and a second by Supervisor Bry. Any discussion? Supervisor Bry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think most of you must have seen that I had Chris Eisenschenk, our personnel director, send out an email because there has been questions by several of the board members on how much money this actually would save. You would think that actually hiring by county employees would be at more expense, but in this case, it's actually a savings of approximately $12,500 per year. So it is a savings. It's definitely beneficial. At our last Human Services Board meeting, we met one of the people that would probably potentially be in these positions, very good person. So I hope everybody supports this resolution tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Bry. Any other discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing addition of 4.0 full-time equivalent human services employees, safety service specialists.
And the resolution is approved. That will take us into announcements. I just have two. Our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, March 19th at our regular time, 6 p.m. And then second, since that will be the last meeting of this term of the county board, the clerk is asking that if you have your onboarding binder that you received when you were first elected to the county board, or at the last term, could you please bring that? She would like to collect them. So if you can find that, we want to update them and we would like to collect them for you. All right. I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Supervisor Girola, second by Supervisor Mink. We're adjourned.